Now, this is of course going to be a follow-up video to the one I did last weekend asking the question, did Darth Vader deserve the redemption he got at the end of Return of the Jedi? And once again, I have to say thank you to all of those who left comments, because a lot of people left some terrific ones, which is one of the reasons I love doing this here on YouTube. I love learning so much about Star Wars from all of you, and seeing how different people sometimes have completely different views on certain aspects of it. However, this time, there was pretty much a consensus when it came to how people felt about this topic, with a lot of you agreeing, in one sense or another, with our top-rated comment, which came to us from Killer Ninja, who said, "Anakin deserves redemption, but Vader does not." And this was certainly along the lines of one of the points I tried to make in the initial video, that Anakin Skywalker was a tortured and manipulated young man who became somebody and something else, that being Darth Vader and a pawn of the dark side of the Force. Which again, it is important to note that in the Star Wars galaxy, the dark side is something real and essentially tangible that can influence the mind and actions of individuals. Whereas in our world, whether or not there is a divine force or entity that is greater than us is certainly a debatable topic, and one I'm not going to get into here. Well, just leave that one for the next episode of Thor Discusses the Mysteries of the Universe. However, there were those of you who argued that Anakin and Vader should not be thought of as two distinctly different people, and were one and the same, and that both deserved redemption. And perhaps the best argument for this came to us from Charlie McGowan, and though I'm not going to read his whole comment, I do encourage you to pause and read it because it does highlight just how difficult of a life Anakin Skywalker led, and that he was almost literally pushed into the clutches of Palpatine and the dark side. But in the end, he managed to overcome the darkness that had consumed him his whole life, and saved his son. And that was because he saw himself in his son Luke, or rather, saw what he could have been had he not fallen to the dark side. Anakin in the end realized his son had become what he could have been, and can there be any better moment in the life of a parent than to see their child has become a better version of themselves? Now, another one of our top comments, which I also encourage you to pause and read, came to us from the White Wolf, and though he makes many great points here, the one I'm going to touch on is, if this were the real world, Anakin and or Vader would not have gotten redemption because his actions were both inexcusable and had such dire consequences for so many individuals, that there's just no way for him to be forgiven. Which, in my opinion, raises a couple fascinating questions. Just how many wrongs is too many to come back from or be forgiven for? Just where is that line? And can any number of rights undo those wrongs? And the thing is, for every person, those answers are going to be completely different. And I'm sure in all our lives, we've had people who will not forgive us for the smallest things, while others have forgiven us for our greatest mistakes. And I think the real key here isn't whether or not society thinks you deserve or earned redemption, because a broad sense of redemption is always going to be difficult, if not impossible to earn, in a world full of so many varied opinions and beliefs. But what matters, and what you should be judged by, is whether or not you try for redemption, if you try to make up for all the wrongs you've done. And this was an idea brought up by a couple of my personal favorite comments. Because here's the thing, we are all going to make mistakes in this life, and sometimes those mistakes will hurt other people, but if we're lucky, we'll have the chance to try and do the right thing, and get redemption in the eyes of a few, or in Anakin's case, even just one, his son Luke. And even though the rest of the galaxy, had they known the whole truth, would have likely never forgiven Anakin, his son did forgive him, and I think if you could ask either Anakin in his last moments of his life, or when he came back as a Force ghost, which he wanted more, redemption in the eyes of his son or in the eyes of the rest of the galaxy, he'd pick his son without question. And I think the same holds true for almost all of us, that we have at least one person in our lives that we wish we could apologize to and get forgiveness from. And that forgiveness from that one person means more to us than what the rest of the world thinks about us. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. And yes, I know this was a short follow-up, which I regret because there were many other great comments I wish I could have touched on, but it's been a particularly busy week for me at work, thanks to my boss being on vacation, and as you can probably hear, my voice is starting to go a bit since I use it extensively at work. Anyway, I still wanted to at least get something up there to show my gratitude to all of you who commented on last week's video. And now, this is again where I'm going to ask if you have any questions you'd like for us all to tackle about Star Wars in a future discussion video. And they can be as deep as this one about Vader and redemption, or as fun and frivolous as a video about who would win in a free-for-all, Ewoks, Gungans, or Porgs. Again, as long as it's about Star Wars and we can have some fun with it in some respect, I'm all for it. So until next time, thanks for watching.